guys, it's Shen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I listened to the audiobook for this, which was read by Julia Emelin. I think I will post her name down in the description so you guys can see it. I really loved it. So this is a fantasy novel. It draws off a lot of older Eastern European fairy tales, and so the audiobook was read in a Eastern European accent. So that really helped kind of with me putting it in my mind where it's happening and that fairy tale aspect of it being something other. And I also read the book just because my own brain doesn't function well with audiobooks. Like I tend to get distracted easily, and having the book and reading along is a way to more ground me in the story. So that's my own personal preference. I'm going to read the little synopsis in the book blurb that's in the cover because I am not describing things well today. Our dragon doesn't eat the girls he takes, no matter what stories they tell outside our valley. We hear them sometimes, from travelers passing through. They talk as though we were doing human sacrifice and that he were a real dragon. Of course that's not true. He may be a wizard and immortal, but he's still a man, and our fathers would band together and kill him if he wanted to eat one of us every 10 years. He protects us from the wood, and we're grateful, but not that grateful. Agnieszka loves her valley home, her quiet village, the forest and the bright shining river, but the corrupted wood stands on their border, full of malevolent power, and its shadow lies over her life. Her people rely on the cold-driven wizard known only as the dragon to keep its power at bay, but he demands a terrible price for his help. One young girl handed over to serve him for 10 years, a fate almost as terrible as falling into the wood. The next choosing is fast approaching, and Agnieszka is afraid. Everyone knows the dragon will take Kasia, beautiful, graceful, brave Kasia, all the things Agnieszka isn't, and her dearest friend in the world, and there is no way to save her. But Agnieszka fears the wrong things, for when the dragon comes, it is not Kasia he will choose. So, not a huge surprise, but he kind of picks Agnieszka. I'm going to spoil that right now, but, I mean, she's the main character. Duh. You didn't see that coming? Anyway, the story takes place in this valley that is bordered by this wood, and the wood is filled with this very evil power in it, and it breeds corruption, and it just possesses things that get too close to it. So if a person goes too near the wood, and definitely if they go into the wood will take control of them and use it for its evil power, and it is trying to spread, and it wants to take over the whole valley, it wants to take over the whole world. It's just not good, because he wants to be possessed by an evil forest. This forest is really freaking creepy too, so that was kind of a little bit terrifying. In this, we have Agnieszka, who's the main character. She's kind of clumsy, very plain, she doesn't really think much of herself. She's always compared herself to her best friend Kasia, who is beautiful and has been training her whole life to be taken by the dragons. She's been working on being good at everything, and Agnieszka is not. So when the dragon picks her, she's really struggling. Like the first day in the kitchen, she doesn't know how to cook well, and he makes comments about her clothes that are dirty and filthy, and just belittles her. So it's not terribly pleasant, and the dragon comes off as this horrible monster to begin with. It reminded me a bit of Beauty and the Beast because I had been reading Beastly especially, so like that was already in the back of my mind, but the dragon definitely came off as a beast on this. Kasia, her best friend, is really nice and kind and sweet, and I loved Kasia and Agnieszka's relationship and their friendship. And the world building here is awesome. I liked the description of the village and what the tower is like, even what the forest is like. Later in the book, we do get to see kind of the capital city and get to see the world beyond the valley, which was awesome too. And I like the politics of how everything works. And I like the psychological aspect of how the wood gets into people's brains and how it functions, is kind of just always there. It's in the mind of the dragon who's trying to fight it, and in the people who are living in the valley, and even the people who don't live in the valley, who live in the main cities, and how that operates. I like how the political system works, and the royal family, especially Prince Merrick, who's kind of conceited and a jerk, but it was still entertaining to read, even if I would not want to run into him in real life. The story is definitely for a mature teen to an adult. There is a sex scene in couple of sex scenes in here, which I kind of felt were unnecessary, but they do fit within the story and weren't too superfluous. Um, and it's pretty violent too, and gory in some of the things that happen. There is magic in the story, and the way magic works in this book is kind of a catch-all. But it didn't bother me too much while I was reading it. It was only when I stopped to like think to review it that I was like, oh yeah, they kind of just did that. Like, it really wasn't. When you're in the midst of the story, it was kind of suspenseful, but like afterwards, it was kind of like, oh, yeah, I never really was too terrified that Agnieszka and the dragon couldn't figure the ways out of it. Um, so it worked within the context of the story. Um, I love the descriptions in this book and how elaborate they are without being too specific. Like, you can still use your imagination and come up with things. But this world is so fantastical, from what the tower is like to what the village is like to the capital city. It also deals with folklore in and of itself. So Agnieszka has spent her whole life hearing stories from people who are traveling, from bards, and even just merchants traveling through the valley. And that's where she gets most of her information about what the town is like, what the main city is like, what the dragon is like, is from these stories. And she does sometimes get to hear what stories the people tell about her valley and trying to compare them to, like, is that true or not? So I liked that aspect, that not only is this a fairy tale and it deals a lot with folklore, but the book itself also deals with how folklore is interpreted within this world. I like how moody the dragon is and kind of just says whatever's on his mind, even if he's insulting somebody, and it's great. I guess I'm like that. Like, I wish I could act like that anyway. So I love the dragon for that aspect of it. Nobody in here is too happy or go lucky. Like, it's very, not that they're all miserable, but they're much more pragmatic. There is an awesome library in the tower. Not gonna lie, I would want to spend my day reading every book in that tower. I love how much Agnieszka cares about her village, but also the whole valley and everybody around her. Even if the dragon seems very standoffish, they kind of Agnieszka and the dragon kind of form this interesting dynamic where the dragon is trying to protect everybody, but also keep everybody at a distance so he doesn't get too involved and too connected. Like, he's immortal, he's going to live forever. Getting too attached to people is just going to be heartbreak. Whereas Agnieszka is very much part of her town and her village and this whole valley. And she knows these people and she knows their stories and she cares about them very deeply. And I like that dynamic between the two of them. Definitely side more with Agnieszka on this, but like, also appreciate the dragon's perspective. We do get to see other wizards and witches in this world. So I really love this story. It pulled me in right away and it just kept my attention. And I really loved it. All of it. I love this whole world. It is a standalone book, which is good, so that's not like on a cliffhanger, like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen. But I also really liked this world, so would love to have more stories set in this world. I really, really love this. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, so it's amazing. You should definitely check it out if you like fairy tales and fantasy. Yeah. Peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.